Hey everybody, welcome back to Templar's Tabletop, and today our episode is all about running a great one-shot. My name is Templar, and this channel is all about bringing you content about tabletop role-playing games. Today, we're going to be talking about one-shots. We're going to talk about the power of pyramids, and I'm going to give you guys an example of how to put this all together. And notice, I'm growing as a YouTuber. I'm even using clickbait in my outlines. Let's go ahead and get started with our topic today. First of all, what do I mean by great content for tabletop games? I use the philosophy of AAA. Affordable, approachable, and awesome. So today I'm talking about the idea of approachable. How do we prepare games, and specifically one-shots, in a way that is approachable? Meaning that a GM can do it and it won't have a huge amount of strain on their time or resources and can still be a lot of fun and give the players a great experience. Let's look at that topic today. So we're talking about one-shots today. For those that are new to the hobby, one-shots are a way to play a role-playing game. The two main forms of playing are either campaigns, where you've got a series of games all back-to-back, picture the Stranger Things, where people are all meeting at one spot over the course of a year and playing a game. Campaigns are awesome because you can tell a really great story, but one of the downsides is that it takes a long time to organize, and it can be a little bit of a drain on people, especially if you've got busy schedules. However, one-shots are where you just get together for a contained story. Instead of a whole TV series, it's one specific episode. It's more like a movie than a TV series. One-shots are really fun for telling one story, but you can lose a little bit of a sense of that narrative choice that you can sometimes get from a campaign. So how do we combine those things? Let's take a look. First, a few terms that we want to be familiar with. Number one is sandbox. In role-playing games, sandbox refers to the GM, or the person running the game, giving players all sorts of different options. You get plunked down in the middle of the world, and you can go any direction that you want. For a player, a sandbox can be really fun because it feels like you have total creative freedom. On the downside, however, sometimes preparing for a sandbox can be a lot of work for the GM because you feel like you have to prepare for every eventuality. Oftentimes, sandbox can at least feel a little bit more daunting. So more creative freedom, but maybe a little bit more preparation for the GM. On the other side of that conversation, if on one end of the spectrum is sandbox, the other side is railroading. And that is when the GM, the game master, is narrating it to the point where it feels like more like a movie. And while the players have some choices, they're not really having a major contribution to what's happening in the story. So some game masters prefer the sandbox style, some prefer more of a railroad, and some usually end somewhere in the middle. So my method that I'm going to talk about today kind of mix some of the stronger elements of both. Now, this is not a new or novel concept by any means. I actually first saw this idea talked about a little bit in the Game Master Guide for City of Mist, another Son of Oak Game Studio games. But this is kind of my take on it and a little bit more of a simplified version. So what are we going to do to put these things together? We're going to use the power of pyramids. Ooh, aka pyramid power. So what does the power of pyramids mean? In this method, instead of having either one fully set narrative or a huge mishmash of options, we're going to give our players a little bit of both. So we're going to have one key core idea that we want our players to move towards. Ooh, get out of your cord. And then we're also going to have some side plots that all can either directly or indirectly feed towards that main plot. So at the beginning of an episodic one-shot, a one-shot where it's a self-contained story, but it can also feed into a larger picture or a larger group of games, you're going to give the players a number of choices that all point towards one specific direction. But Templar, isn't that kind of restricting the player's choice or giving them like a Schrodinger's cat where it doesn't really matter what they choose? Kind of. But at the end of the day, role-playing games are about telling great stories, and I also think that it's about everybody at the table having a good experience. And so for a GM, if you can make a structure that gives the players a chance to have fun, but also takes away some of that, the pressure of you having to come up with every eventuality, I call that a win-win. So as you can see here, I've got a very well laid out document, and you can tell because it's in Times New Roman. So how do we do this? First one, we're going to pick a key concept. This is something that you want your story to revolve around. And in METRO OTHERSCAPE, the game that we're talking about today, it's a mix of cyberpunk and fantasy. So do you want to use a myth? Do you want to use a cutting edge piece of technology? Pick something that is interesting and is going to hook the player's attention. So you're going to pick a key concept, and that is going to be your central encounter. Step 2, develop an encounter that really highlights that key concept. And so in the case of my game that I just run recently, I picked a piece of mythology that I thought, oh, thank you, that's really cool. Let's make a cyberpunk style encounter that's based around that. Next up, so that is gonna be your central point, the thing that your entire adventure moves to. So this central encounter is going to be the thing that all of the other points are pointing towards. If we look back at our pyramid of power, that is our main point. Very nice. Next up, we're going to create some side plots that move towards that central theme. And so again, we're going to develop some smaller stories that can all directly or indirectly feed in. So what do I mean by directly or indirectly? Directly would mean you're on a case, and when you finish one of the side plots, you get a clue that directly leads you to the lair of the bad guy. That would be direct. Whereas indirect would be that perhaps one of the side plots has been influenced by the main plot. A crime lord has been extorting people in a neighborhood, and one of the side plots is that a grandmother has lost her pension as a result of the criminal activity. He didn't do it directly, but it is an effect, and so the players might naturally ask some questions about how did this all happen and move towards that main plot. So again, all of these points are funneling towards your main objective. Next up, you're going to create some random tables of clues, NPCs, and locations that can hold all of these events. So once you have your side plot, give yourself a list of some areas that can actually work to help hold those things. And again, if you're a gamer, random tables are your best friend. Let's see some of this in action in just a moment after we finish up this list. You're going to arrange these into your pyramid structure so that you can just kind of visualize it. When you do that, it kind of helps you run the game because you can just visualize how everything is going to flow together. And I put in the line there, all roads lead to Rome. Everything in your story is working towards that central point. Then you're going to create, as I said, you're going to have some random encounter tables if there's ever a lull in the action. Random encounter tables are a great way to keep the game fresh for you and your players because nobody knows what's going to come up. And if people get stalled, throw in a random encounter, and it's a great way to keep the action moving. And then finally, if you would like, depending on your game style, you can find art and maps and tokens for your game if you're going to run it online or in person. And then lastly, give thanks to the Polish people. No, I'm just kidding. Polish. You want to polish your story, make sure that it is feeling as nice as it can before you present it. So let's take a look at this in action. But Templar, how do you know this? Are you just, making this stuff up? No, I actually just ran the story that I'm about to show you guys for my first time ever doing an online game, and it went awesome. And here, actually, I've got a real treat for you. Here's some footage from the game to illustrate that I'm not just making this up. Oh, yeah, I forgot to record. Sorry about that. But I'm hoping to record the next game, and that might be a little bit of a gameplay analysis video so you guys can actually see Metro in action. But let's get back to our example here. So here was the example scene that I just ran for my players. I came up with the idea of, or I was inspired by the idea of, the myth of Fjörnir, apologies if I mispronounced that, is influencing the development of a terrible super weapon. So just a quick Google search, and I came up with this. This is a Norse legend of this chained up wolf. But Templar, I'm not creative. I can't come up with ideas. Well, I believe in you. Actually, I think that you can, but also you've got the entire internet at your fingers, not to mention in this decade, the power of AI at your disposal. Speaking of, I know that AI is a little bit of a hot topic in the RPG scene, so I'm going to save my video about my thoughts on AI in the role-playing game space until I have at least 100 subscribers. That way, when I lose half of them, it won't hurt so bad. But I digress. Let's keep moving on to our example. So we've got our core idea here, which is this idea that this Fjörnir is influencing a new weapon being built. The final encounter will be finding blank. I'm not showing this because I still haven't finished this game, and on the off chance one of my players actually watches this, that would spoil it for them, although I just showed it by highlighting. So again, I'm an early YouTuber, so don't hold it against me. Now, after that, I came up with some side plots that move towards this final encounter that I was coming up with. So in this case, I had some fun side plots. There was going to be a dog race that would eventually get corrupted by the presence of this evil wolf. There would also be escalating gang violence because this rune is popping up all over the town, and potentially a heist to steal a program that was, again, being influenced by this mythical wolf. And in this story, this mythical wolf is influencing people towards wrath and rage. And so all of those things are a little bit different, but they're all related and they're all moving towards that central idea. So no matter what the players choose, there's going to be things that are moving them towards this central confrontation. So I thought that that was very effective. Then, as I said, I came up with some clues that could help point them that direction, things that they could find while they were journeying. I came up with some NPCs that they might encounter so that when they asked what people's names were, I at least had a little bit of an idea. And I came up with some random encounters, which actually turned out to be some of my most fun parts of the encounter when I was actually running it. So overall, we did about 2 hours of gameplay, and this structure has worked great for me. It didn't take me a huge amount of time to set up for it, and so far, at least what it seems like is that the players enjoyed it. You'll have to look at their comments, and maybe I did a terrible job, and they'll say, no, never play with Templar. But again, I digress. But I've yapped at you guys, I've talked about it, now let's do it live. I want to give you guys the confidence. I believe you guys can do this in about 30 seconds following the power of the pyramid. So let's do this live real quick. So we want to come up with a mythical plot. What's the first thing you think of when you think of mythology? Let's go Zeus. So we want something around Zeus. When I think Zeus and cyberpunk, maybe some sort of like a battle at a power plant. I like that. Cool. So power plant is going to be our central conflict. So what are some subplots that we can come up with that lead towards a power plant? All right, put on your thinking caps, shout out an answer. Oh, great job, Timmy. That was a really good idea. I'm going to write that down. You said that there has been some stolen nuclear fuel, and that is going to be, they're trying to use that to make their own new power plant. I don't know. Again, we're just coming up with stuff on the fly. But again, I want to show you, don't be afraid of the blank page. Just put some ideas down. They don't have to be fantastic. So we've got some stolen nuclear fuel that's leading to our power plant. Okay, and maybe that they were stealing it because Zeus is trying to build up a power plant strong enough that he can do world domination. I don't know. Maybe there's an electricity-powered artifact that has suddenly gone missing, and the players are tasked with getting it for somebody else. But again, it all points back to Zeus. And then finally, the last one, maybe one of the PCs is a cyborg, and maybe they're having some strange visions of this electrical interference, and they do a little bit of investigating, and again, that points to the power plant where this slumbering Zeus is currently located. So, long story short, come up with a central idea and then have some things that move towards that core thought. See, you did it. Fantastic. You are now an RPG game designer. Please don't forget to include me on your royalty checks. So my encouragement is that give this a try. Try the pyramid structure next time that you're going to play a game and see if by coming up with a central point and having all of your supporting ideas lead towards that, it gives you a little bit more freedom and takes off a little bit of the burden from your prep. Here's the big thing though, no matter how you play, tell a story. Make sure that you are having your players engaged, make sure that you're having fun with the story that you're telling, and try to keep everybody at the table moving towards that shared goal. And I think you guys will have some AAA gaming. Affordable, approachable, and awesome. Now, that is what I think. That is the way that I like to design a one-shot, and that's something that's worked for me. But as YouTube demands, I need to ask, what do you think? How do you like to design one-shots? What is your thoughts on railroading versus sandbox? Leave them in the comments below, and I'm hopefully soon, we're gonna get to that me playing a solo game video eventually, but in the meantime, I'll be doing, my goal for 2025 is to do 1 video a week, so make sure that you keep your eyes peeled on the subscription bar, and then hopefully you'll have a gameplay video soon, as long as I don't forget to record. So, have a great day. May all of your games be fantastic. And this has been Templar signing off.